What does it truly mean to be kind in a world that often seems indifferent? This question hangs heavy in the air, like the scent of fries wafting through the neon glow of a 24-hour McDonald's just outside Chattanooga, Tennessee. In a society where the hustle often obscures humanity, a simple act of generosity can ripple through lives in ways we might never expect. It is within this space, amid the hum of late-night conversations and the clatter of trays, that we meet Diego. Diego is a young man in his early 20s, with dark hair and a hopeful smile that seems at odds with the weariness etched around his eyes. He stands behind the counter of the McDonald's, wearing the familiar uniform that has become a second skin. His dreams stretch far beyond the fluorescent lights and grease-stained surfaces of the fast food joint. He aspires to be a filmmaker, to tell stories that resonate with people and inspire change. But dreams often come with a weight, and for Diego, that weight is compounded by the reality of his life. He supports his single mother, who works 2 jobs to make ends meet, and he juggles shifts while trying to save enough for community college. Every hour he spends at the counter is a step toward that dream, yet every beep of the register serves as a reminder of the struggles that lie ahead. On this particular night, as the clock inches closer to midnight, Diego is processing orders with a practiced efficiency when a familiar figure steps through the door. Alan Jackson, the country music legend, enters with an unassuming demeanor, baseball cap pulled low over his brow, attempting to blend into the backdrop of the restaurant. Yet the moment Diego catches sight of him, his heart races. He has grown up listening to Alan's songs, the melodies woven into the fabric of his childhood. This is not just a celebrity. This is a voice that has been the soundtrack to his life. Diego manages to keep his cool as he takes Alan's order, but when he hands over the bag, he can't help but smile. "On the house, sir. My mom raised me on your music. I've got this one." The words spill out before he can think twice, and for a fleeting moment, the weight of the world lifts. Alan chuckles softly, gratitude shining in his eyes as he thanks Diego and exits into the night. It's a simple moment, one that could easily be overlooked in the hustle of life, yet it speaks volumes. But the following day shatters that fleeting joy. The manager, having seen the security footage, calls Diego into the office, his face stern and unforgiving. "You violated corporate policy," he says, his voice devoid of compassion. In an instant, the kindness that had sparked a connection is the very thing that costs Diego his job. The news spreads quickly. The young man who dared to give something away is now facing the harsh realities of unemployment. Embarrassment washes over him, mingling with a sense of injustice. It feels like a betrayal of the very values he holds dear. Alan, upon learning about Diego's dismissal, is deeply troubled. The incident gnaws at him, a heavy weight on his conscience. He could issue a public statement denouncing the corporate policy that led to Diego's firing, yet he knows that words alone might not be enough. Alan grapples with his own moral dilemma. His heart tells him to act, but how? The recognition of Diego's vulnerability resonates with him. He sees not just a young man who has lost a job, but someone who dared to show kindness in a world that often rewards the opposite. It's an act worthy of acknowledgement, not punishment. Driven by this realization, Alan makes a decision that surprises even him. He drives back to the McDonald's, scanning the area, until he spots Diego waiting for a bus, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Alan approaches him, his presence a beacon of hope amidst the shadows of uncertainty. They sit together on a nearby bench, sharing stories under the glow of streetlights. Diego's honesty about his struggles pours out, revealing a young man who is not just driven by dreams, but also by a fierce love for his family. His vulnerability pierces through Alan's heart, igniting a sense of urgency within him. Within a week, Alan's determination to help Diego culminates in a surprise meeting. He invites Diego to a private gathering where he reveals his plans. He has arranged for a full year of tuition at the local college, offering a lifeline to the dreams that had seemed so distant. But that's not all. Alan extends a hand, offering Diego a part-time job as a production assistant on his upcoming tour. This role is not just a job, it's a chance for growth, a pathway to the world of storytelling that Diego has longed to be part of. "You did something kind when no one was watching," Alan tells him, his tone sincere. "That's the kind of person I want around me." As Diego processes this unexpected turn of events, a mix of disbelief and hope washes over him. He's at a crossroads, standing on the precipice of a new life filled with possibilities. The journey ahead won't be easy. He will face challenges, insecurities, and the weight of expectation. But the kindness that once cost him his job now opens doors he never dreamed possible. He begins to learn the ropes backstage, each moment a step toward the future he envisioned. From nervous beginnings to standing alongside Alan on stage, his transformation is profound. The story takes a viral turn when Alan decides to document this journey, capturing the essence of kindness and the impact it can have on lives. Titled The Kindness Receipt, the mini-doc showcases Diego's growth, illustrating how an act of generosity can change everything. The narrative unfolds, revealing the raw emotions, the struggles, and ultimately, the triumphs. As the final scene approaches, Diego stands before a group of high school students, his voice steady as he shares his journey. He encourages them to be kind, to embrace empathy even when it's not easy, reminding them that every small act can lead to something extraordinary. It is a poignant reminder that, in a world often clouded by indifference, kindness can be a powerful force for change. The echoes of his story linger in the hearts of those who hear it, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the bonds that can form in the unlikeliest of places. As the weeks pass, Diego finds himself navigating the exhilarating yet daunting landscape of his new life. The initial thrill of working alongside Alan Jackson soon gives way to a different set of challenges. Each day on tour brings a whirlwind of excitement, but it also tests his resolve and self-belief. The glitz and glamour of the music world can feel overwhelming, and Diego often wrestles with imposter syndrome. He stands amidst seasoned professionals who have spent years honing their craft, while he is just beginning to find his footing. There are moments when he feels the weight of his dreams pressing down on him, making it hard to breathe. One evening, after a particularly demanding day setting up for a concert, Diego overhears a conversation between two crew members. They joke about the new kid and how he's only there because of Alan's pity. The words cut deeper than he anticipated, igniting a familiar sense of doubt. He had fought so hard to rise above the limitations of his circumstances, and now he fears that in this glittering world, he might just be another charity case. The thought lingers, gnawing at his confidence and making him question whether he truly belongs. Meanwhile, Alan is busy preparing for a major performance, and amidst the chaos, he becomes increasingly preoccupied with his own struggles. The demands of fame weigh heavily on him, and the pressure to deliver a perfect show is immense. He oscillates between moments of genuine connection with Diego and times when he's too absorbed in his own stresses to notice the young man's growing insecurities. Diego longs for guidance and reassurance, but Alan's own internal battles create a distance that he can't quite bridge. In this context, a new character enters the scene. Mia, a fellow production assistant who is both fierce and compassionate. With her vibrant personality and no-nonsense approach, Mia quickly becomes a source of support for Diego. She recognizes his struggles and offers him encouragement, sharing her own experiences of feeling like an outsider in the industry. "We've all been there," she tells him one day as they set up lights for a show. Just remember why you're here. You've got this." Her words resonate with him, sparking a flicker of hope amid his doubts. However, as Diego begins to find his rhythm with Mia's support, he faces another blow. During a sound check, a technical mishap occurs, and the blame falls squarely on him. It's a mistake that, while minor, leads to a cascade of chaos that nearly derails the concert. The director's frustration is palpable, and Diego feels the heat of judgment in the air. It's not just the error that stings, it's the fear that he has disappointed Alan, the very person who took a chance on him. He retreats backstage, overwhelmed with shame, replaying the moment in his mind and grappling with feelings of failure. As he stands in the shadows, Mia finds him, her expression a mix of concern and understanding. "Hey, don't let this get to you. Everyone messes up," she says gently, placing a hand on his shoulder. But Diego struggles to accept her words. "What if this is just proof that I'm not cut out for this?" he admits, his voice barely above a whisper. The vulnerability in his admission opens a floodgate of emotions, and for the first time, he allows himself to confront the fear that has been lurking beneath the surface, the fear of failure and the possibility of letting down those he cares about. Mia listens intently, her own eyes reflecting a depth of empathy. "Look, we all have moments where we doubt ourselves. It's what you do next that matters. Don't let one mistake define you." Her unwavering belief in him ignites a spark of resilience he thought he had lost. Diego realizes that the path to success is rarely a straight line. It is filled with setbacks and learning experiences. Inspired by Mia's words, he takes a deep breath and resolves to not let this setback deter him. As the concert night approaches, Diego immerses himself in preparation. Each task he undertakes is imbued with a renewed sense of purpose. He pushes through the lingering doubts, driven by the realization that the journey is not just about achieving his dreams, but about the connections he builds along the way. He finds comfort in his camaraderie with Mia, and together they tackle the challenges of the upcoming show, their friendship growing deeper with shared laughter and late-night brainstorming sessions. Yet as the concert begins, the atmosphere shifts. The crowd's energy pulsates and Diego's heart races. He feels both exhilarated and terrified, acutely aware that this performance is not just Alan's, but a reflection of his own journey. As well, midway through the show, however, disaster strikes again. A crucial piece of equipment malfunctions, and the audience's excitement quickly turns to confusion. In that moment of chaos, Diego's instincts kick in. He recalls the training and mentorship he has received, his mind racing with solutions. He communicates with the technical team, suggesting a workaround that he had learned from observing the seasoned professionals around him. With determination, he steps up, his heart pounding as he takes control of the situation. It's a defining moment, one where he no longer sees himself as just the new kid, but as an integral part of the team. The crowd's mood shifts back to excitement as the show resumes, and Alan, recognizing Diego's quick thinking, gives him a nod of approval from the stage. The moment ignites a fire within Diego, and he realizes that he is not just an observer of this world anymore. He is actively shaping it. The connection with Alan deepens as they share a mutual respect forged through a shared commitment to excellence and a newfound understanding of each other's struggles. However, as the night unfolds, the reality of their friendship begins to take on a more complex shape. Alan's fame brings with it a spotlight that Diego is still learning to navigate. During a post-concert celebration, Diego watches as people flock to Alan, their faces lit with adoration, while he feels a pang of isolation. He grapples with the fear that he will never be able to step out of Alan's shadow. It's a moment of reflection that brings back doubts about his worth and contributions. Mia notices his unease and pulls him aside. "You're not just Alan's friend, you're Diego. You bring something unique to the table. Don't lose sight of that. Her words resonate, but the internal battle remains. Diego's vulnerability is laid bare as he questions whether his journey is truly his own or merely an extension of someone else's success. As the weeks turn into months, the challenges continue to mount. The pressure of juggling work, school, and family obligations weighs heavily on Diego. His mother's health begins to decline, adding another layer of emotional strain. He feels torn between his responsibilities at home and his aspirations in the music industry. The guilt of pursuing his dreams while his mother struggles becomes a haunting presence, forcing him to confront the delicate balance between ambition and familial duty. Amidst the growing tension, Alan's own challenges deepen. The demands of the tour take a toll on his mental health, and he finds himself retreating into solitude. Diego longs to reach out, to offer support, but he struggles to find the words. Their once vibrant connection begins to feel strained, leaving Diego feeling more isolated than ever. In the quiet moments, Diego reflects on the kindness that sparked this journey, the act of generosity that had cost him so much, yet opened doors he never knew existed. He grapples with the reality that kindness can come with its own set of challenges, forcing him to re-evaluate the meaning of support and friendship in a world that often feels indifferent. As the story unfolds, Diego must confront not only the obstacles in his path, but also the intricate web of relationships that shape his journey. With each trial, he learns valuable lessons about resilience, the power of connection, and the strength that lies within vulnerability. The path ahead may be fraught with uncertainty, but amid the storms, there is a flicker of hope, a reminder that kindness, even in its most complicated forms, can illuminate the darkest corners of life. As Diego continues to navigate the complexities of his new life on tour, he finds himself faced with an unexpected challenge that shakes him to his core. The night after the successful concert, he is awakened by a phone call from his mother's hospital. The voice on the other end delivers news that sends a chill through him. She has been diagnosed with a serious condition requiring immediate treatment. The weight of this revelation crashes down on him, making the vibrant lights of the tour seem dim and distant. In the days that follow, Diego feels a tug-of-war within himself. He is torn between his commitment to Alan and the crew and the urgent need to return home to support his mother. The emotional turmoil weighs heavily on him, manifesting in sleepless nights and distracted days. Each time he looks at his phone, he anticipates another call, another piece of news that could shift everything. The fear of losing his mother looms large, and he begins to feel the physical toll of stress, headaches, fatigue, and an ever-present knot in his stomach. With each passing moment, Diego grapples with his sense of duty. He knows that if he leaves the tour now, he may never have the chance to return to this world he has fought so hard to join. Yet the thought of being away from his mother during such a critical time gnaws at his conscience. It feels like a betrayal of the bond they have nurtured throughout his life, and the guilt becomes unbearable. Mia notices the change in him. She sees the shadows under his eyes and the way he seems to drift further away with each passing day. One evening, as they clean up after a long rehearsal, she finally confronts him. "What's going on, Diego? You seem miles away." He hesitates, feeling the urge to shield her from his burdens, but the weight is too heavy to carry alone. He confides in her about his mother's health, the fear that grips him, and the dilemma of staying with the tour or returning home. Mia listens intently, her eyes filled with empathy. "You have to do what feels right for you, but don't forget your dreams. You can support your mom and still chase what you love." Her words resonate, but they also ignite a flicker of resentment within him. It feels unfair that he should have to choose between love and ambition, duty and desire. As the tour progresses, Alan's own struggles begin to surface. The pressure of fame has turned into a suffocating weight, and he finds himself retreating further into solitude. One night, after a particularly draining show, he disappears into his dressing room, leaving the crew to fend for themselves. Diego catches a glimpse of the toll it takes on everyone, the crew members whispering about Alan's increasingly erratic behavior, the whispers tinged with concern, yet coated in the bitterness of frustration. Diego feels the distance growing between them, and he begins to wonder if Alan, too, is grappling with the very same doubts he faces. In the midst of this turmoil, Diego receives a call from his mother's doctor, who informs him that his mother's condition has worsened and that she requires immediate surgery. The news hits him like a tidal wave, and for the first time, he feels the desperate urge to abandon everything and rush home. But as he stands on the precipice of making that decision, a fear creeps in. What if he fails? What if he is not strong enough to handle both worlds? The internal conflict escalates, and Diego starts isolating himself from the crew, retreating into a shell of self-doubt. Each day becomes a battle between anxiety and the facade of composure he tries to maintain. He finds himself zoning out during meetings, unable to focus on the tasks at hand, while the whispers of doubt echo louder in his mind. Meanwhile, Mia continues to reach out, trying to bridge the gap between them. "You're stronger than you think, Diego," she insists one night as they clean up after another show, "but you need to lean on us. We're here for you." Diego longs to believe her, but the weight of his burdens feels insurmountable, and he fears that opening up will only make him more vulnerable. As the tension builds, a turning point occurs when Alan, in a moment of vulnerability, confides in Diego about his own struggles with depression and the pressure of maintaining his public persona. It's a rare glimpse behind the curtain that reveals the humanity beneath the star. "I feel like I'm losing myself," Alan admits, his voice barely above a whisper. "This world is exhausting, and I don't know how to keep it together." In that moment, Diego sees a reflection of his own struggles in Alan's eyes, and a connection is forged that transcends the divide of fame and ambition. They share a moment of honesty that strips away the pretense they've both been clinging to, and in that vulnerability, Diego feels a flicker of hope. But just as things begin to shift, another obstacle arises. The producer of the tour announces a major change. The tour will extend for several more months due to its unexpected popularity. The news hits Diego like a punch to the gut. The idea of stretching his commitments longer means he may miss the opportunity to be with his mother during her recovery. The choice becomes even more convoluted, and he feels the pressure mounting as he weighs the demands of his career against the needs of his family. The emotional impact of these challenges begins to manifest physically. Diego notices his health declining. He struggles to shake off a persistent cold, and the exhaustion settles deeper into his bones. The late nights and early mornings blur together, leaving him drained. He becomes more irritable, snapping at crew members over trivial mistakes, and the camaraderie that once buoyed him starts to fray at the edges. In the midst of this internal chaos, Mia's unwavering support becomes a lifeline. She steps up, encouraging him to take care of himself and reminding him that he is not alone in this fight. Her strength in the face of adversity has always inspired him, and now she encourages him to confront the growing fissures in his life. "You need to talk to Alan. You're both fighting your own battles, but together you might find a way through," she urges. It's a push he desperately needs, yet the thought of opening up feels daunting. As Diego contemplates this advice, he's struck by the realization that vulnerability doesn't equate to weakness. Instead, it could be a source of strength, a bridge to deeper connections. Inspired by Mia's words, he resolves to take that step, to confront Alan and share the weight he has been carrying. But just as he prepares to seek out Alan, another twist unfolds. The tour's production manager announces a last-minute addition to the schedule. a high-profile performance at a charity event meant to raise awareness for mental health issues. The stakes are raised, and the pressure intensifies. Diego feels the familiar sense of impending failure creeping back in. What if he messes up again? What if he disappoints Alan in front of a crowd of industry insiders? The internal conflict reaches a fever pitch. The emotional toll of trying to juggle his responsibilities while navigating his mother's health crisis becomes almost unbearable. He feels as if he's teetering on the edge of a precipice, and with each passing day, the fear of falling deepens. In the final moments before the charity event, Diego stands backstage, heart racing. He's acutely aware of the weight on his shoulders, not just the expectations of the team, but the knowledge that he is at a crossroads. He must decide whether to continue pushing through the pain or to finally unburden himself, to allow his fears to be heard. As he prepares to step onto the stage, he takes a deep breath, a moment of clarity washing over him. He realizes that he must embrace the chaos, to let go of the need for perfection, and to lean on the support of those around him. This moment isn't just about him, it's about all the connections he has forged along the way. With renewed determination, Diego steps forward, ready to face whatever comes next, knowing that the journey ahead will be filled with both challenges and opportunities for growth. The flicker of hope ignites into a flame, illuminating the path that lies ahead, a journey not just of ambition, but of resilience, connection, and the profound strength that comes from embracing vulnerability. As Diego stood backstage, the energy of the crowd pulsing through the walls, he felt an electric charge of anticipation mixed with an overwhelming sense of dread. The charity event was not just another performance, it was a pivotal moment that could either solidify his place in the music industry or unravel all that he had worked for. For weeks, he had been grappling with the weight of his mother's deteriorating health, the pressures of the tour, and his own spiraling mental state. But now, as the moment neared, he felt a storm brewing inside him, a tempest of emotions that threatened to consume him. Just before the curtain lifted, an unexpected commotion erupted in the audience. Diego caught snippets of frantic whispers and hurried footsteps. Unable to quell his curiosity, he peered out from behind the curtain, and his heart sank. His mother was being wheeled in on a stretcher, her face ghostly pale and her body frail. The sight of her in such a vulnerable state shattered the facade he had been clinging to. His body went cold, and the world around him faded into a blur. In that instant, everything shifted. The applause, the lights, the buzzing energy of the crowd, it all felt trivial in comparison to the reality that his mother was fighting for her life. The gravity of the moment became a catalyst for transformation. Diego felt an awakening, a deep realization that life could change in the blink of an eye, that his dreams and aspirations paled against the fierceness of love and familial bonds. Overwhelmed, he turned away from the stage, his heart racing and his mind racing even faster. He could feel the eyes of the crew on him, could sense their curiosity and concern. He had been so focused on his own battles that he had lost sight of what truly mattered. This was a wake-up call he couldn't ignore. He couldn't perform. Not like this. The thought of pretending everything was fine while his mother lay vulnerable was unbearable. As he stepped away from the spotlight, he felt a sense of liberation washing over him. This was not a failure. It was a moment of clarity. He needed to be where he belonged, with his family. Diego felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes, not just for his mother, but for the burden of guilt and shame he had been carrying. He was not abandoning his dreams. He was honoring the most important relationship in his life. With each step away from the stage, he felt lighter, as if he was shedding the weight of expectations that had been suffocating him. The decision crystallized in his mind. He would leave the tour. He would call Alan and explain everything. No more hiding or pretending that he could juggle it all. There was a world beyond the lights and the fame, one that required his presence and love. But as he reached for his phone, his heart sank again. What if this decision cost him everything he had worked for? What if he disappointed Alan, the crew, and all the fans who had come to see him perform? The fear of failure lingered, but it was eclipsed by a stronger conviction. He needed to be true to himself, to embrace the vulnerability he had been resisting. Mia appeared beside him, her expression a mixture of understanding and concern. "Diego, are you okay?" she asked softly, her voice filled with warmth. He looked at her, the weight of his decision evident in his expression. "I can't do this, Mia, not right now. My mom, she needs me." Mia's eyes widened, and without a word she nodded, grasping his arm gently. "Then go. We'll figure this out. You have to do what's right for you." Her unwavering support ignited a spark of determination within him. Diego made the call to Alan, his heart pounding as he explained the situation. He expected anger or disappointment, but instead he was met with an understanding that surprised him. "Diego, I'm so sorry to hear about your mom. Go be with her. We'll manage here. Family comes first." Alan's voice was steady, filled with empathy. Relief flooded through Diego as he hung up, the tension in his chest easing. He was no longer alone in his struggles. The connections he had forged with Mia and Alan were stronger than he had realized. There was an unspoken bond that transcended the pressures of fame and ambition, a reminder that they were all navigating their own challenges. With newfound clarity, Diego rushed to pack his things, feeling a sense of urgency, to be by his mother's side. The tour could wait. His dreams would still be there when he returned. The emotional toll of the last few weeks had been immense, but this moment of vulnerability had transformed his perspective. He could prioritize his family without sacrificing his own desires. As he stepped out into the night, the cool air hit his face, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, he breathed deeply. The chaos that had consumed him was still present, but he felt equipped to face it. New opportunities and challenges awaited him, but he knew he would navigate them with a stronger sense of purpose. The future remained uncertain, but Diego was ready to embrace it. He understood now that true strength came not from isolation, but from connection with others and himself. This journey, with all its ups and downs, was just beginning. The lights of the tour may fade, but the bonds of love and family would shine brightly, guiding him through the darkness ahead. As Diego hurried through the backstage corridors, his heart raced with a mix of urgency and determination. The weight of his decision hung heavily on his shoulders, but it was a burden he was willing to bear. He had chosen family over fame, love over ambition, and now he needed to prepare for the emotional confrontation that lay ahead. His mind replayed the moment he had seen his mother on the stretcher, her frail body a stark reminder of life's fragility. He could still hear the gasps of the crowd, the shock reverberating through the air like a tremor. The adrenaline that had fueled his performances now surged for a different purpose, to face the reality of what was happening, to confront the fear that clawed at him. As he reached the exit, he glanced back at the stage where his dreams had begun to take flight. The lights were still bright, but they felt distant now, almost like a mirage. The sound of cheering fans faded, replaced by the echo of his mother's laughter. Memories of her nurturing embrace flooding back. She had always been his greatest supporter, and he had taken that for granted. With each step away from the stage, he felt the finality of his choice solidifying within him. Outside, the cool night air enveloped him, invigorating his senses. He pulled out his phone, taking a moment to breathe deeply before dialing his sister Elena. She answered on the first ring, her voice laced with concern. "Diego, where are you? "I'm on my way to the hospital," he replied, his tone steady despite the turmoil inside. "Mom, she needs us." "I'm already there. I'll meet you at the entrance," Elena said, her voice barely hiding the tremor of fear. Diego felt a rush of gratitude for her presence. Their bond had been strained over the years, overshadowed by their individual pursuits, but now they were united by a common purpose. As he made his way through the city streets, he reflected on the choices that had led him here. The pressures of the music industry had often kept him isolated, and he had let his dreams eclipse the relationships that truly mattered. When he arrived at the hospital, he found Elena pacing outside the emergency room. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but they sparkled with determination as she rushed to embrace him. "You made it," she said softly, pulling back to look him in the eye. "We'll face this together." In that moment, Diego felt the warmth of familial love wrap around him, a protective shield against the uncertainty that lay ahead. "What do we know?" he asked, needing to ground himself in the facts rather than the fear that threatened to overwhelm him. "The doctors are working on her. They said they need to stabilize her before we can see her," Elena explained, her voice steady despite the worry etched on her face. But we have to be ready for anything." They sat in the waiting room, the sterile environment contrasting sharply with the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside them. Diego's thoughts drifted to Mia and Alan, the supportive friends who had stood by him during this tumultuous journey. He realized how essential their encouragement had been, pushing him to embrace vulnerability rather than hide from it. He needed to reach out to them to ensure they understood his absence was not a rejection of his dreams, but rather an affirmation of his values. "Can you text Mia and Alan for me?" he asked Elena, feeling the urgency of the moment. "Let them know what's happening." "Of course," she said, pulling out her phone. "They'll understand. We all have to prioritize what matters most." As Elena typed, Diego couldn't shake the feeling of impending confrontation. He was about to face the possibility of losing his mother, the woman who had shaped him into the person he was today. He thought of the sacrifices she had made, the nights she had stayed up late to help him practice, the times she had driven him to auditions, always believing in him, even when he didn't believe in himself. The tension in the waiting room thickened as time dragged on. Each beep of the monitors and hushed whisper from the nurses sent waves of anxiety coursing through him. He couldn't help but feel that this moment was a reckoning. What if he had waited too long to prioritize his family? What if he had sacrificed too much in the pursuit of success? The thought nearly consumed him, but he pushed it aside, focusing instead on the love that had brought him here. Finally, a doctor emerged, his expression serious yet compassionate. "Diego, Elena," he said, addressing them directly. "Your mother is stable, but she's in critical condition. We need to discuss her treatment options." Diego's heart sank, the weight of the news pressing down on him. He exchanged a quick glance with Elena, who looked pale but resolute. They followed the doctor to a small consultation room, their minds racing with questions and fears. As they sat down, Diego could feel a wave of emotion rising within him, a mixture of hope and despair. He couldn't let fear dictate their next steps. "What do we need to do?" he asked, his voice steady despite the chaos inside. The doctor outlined the treatment options, each one more complex than the last. As he spoke, Diego felt a sense of solidarity with Elena. They were navigating this storm together, their differences melting away in the face of adversity. They would find a way to support their mother, no matter the cost. After the meeting, Diego stepped outside for air, the cool breeze hitting, his face like a splash of water. He took a moment to collect his thoughts, reflecting on the emotional journey that had brought him to this point. He had learned the importance of connection, of vulnerability, and of prioritizing love over ambition. But as he stood there, he was struck by a sudden realization. He had to confront his own feelings of inadequacy. What if he hadn't achieved enough? What if he had let his mother down by pursuing a career in music? The doubts crept back in, but he pushed them away. He had to remember the lessons learned, that failure was part of the journey, that it was okay to restart. Just then, Mia and Alan appeared, concern etched on their faces. Diego felt a rush of gratitude as they approached, their presence a comforting balm to his frayed nerves. "We came as soon as we got your sister's message," Mia said, her voice steady. "What can we do to help?" Diego looked at them, the weight of his decision heavy in the air. "I need to be here for my mom," he said quietly, the truth weighing on his heart. "But I also need to know that the music can wait." Alan nodded, placing a reassuring hand on Diego's shoulder. "You've got to do what's right. For you. We'll hold down the fort while you're away. You're not letting anyone down by choosing family." Mia stepped closer, her eyes filled with understanding. "You're not alone in this. We're here for you, no matter what. You have our support." The reassurance from his friends ignited a flicker of hope within Diego. They had all faced their struggles, yet they had come together in solidarity, overcoming their differences to support one another. This was the strength of their friendship, a testament to the bonds they had forged in the face of life's challenges. Diego felt a surge of determination wash over him. He was ready to face whatever came next, to confront the fears that had held him back. But just as he was about to speak, an unexpected event changed the dynamics of the situation entirely. A nurse rushed out of the emergency room, her expression urgent. "Family of Mrs. Ramirez," she called, her voice cutting through the tension. Diego's heart raced as he and Elena rushed toward her. "That's us!" Elena exclaimed. "The doctor wants to see you now. There's been a change in your mother's condition," the nurse said, her eyes serious. Diego felt a wave of anxiety wash over him as they followed the nurse back into the hospital. The unexpected turn of events heightened the stakes, and he could feel the tension building within him once more. As they entered the room, Diego braced himself for the confrontation with reality. No matter the outcome, he was ready to face it head-on. He had come to understand the importance of love and connection, and he would carry that strength with him into the unknown. In that moment, Diego realized that amidst the uncertainty and fear, he had allies standing beside him, ready to confront whatever came next. The journey was far from over, but he was no longer alone. Empowered by the love of his family and friends, he was prepared to fight for what mattered most, not just for his mother, but for himself. The final confrontation awaited, and he would face it with an unyielding spirit, ready to embrace the unknown. As Diego stepped into the hospital room, the air felt charged with an electric tension. His mother lay there, frail and still, the rhythmic beeping of machines, a haunting reminder of her condition. The doctor stood at her bedside, poring over charts, his brow furrowed with concern. Diego's heart raced, a drumbeat of anxiety echoing in his ears as he approached her. "Mom," he whispered, his voice barely breaking the silence. He reached for her hand, feeling the coolness of her skin against his warm palm. The weight of his decision to leave the stage and rush to her side felt monumental now, like a fragile thread holding him together in the face of uncertainty. Elena stood beside him, her eyes wide with fear. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice trembling. The doctor looked up, his expression grave. "Your mother's health has deteriorated. We need to make some quick decisions about her treatment," he said, his tone both professional and empathetic. "There's a chance she could go into surgery tonight, but it's a high-risk procedure given her condition." Diego felt the world tilt beneath him. The thought of losing her, of her not being there to support him in ways she always had, was unbearable. Memories flashed through his mind, her laughter, her encouragement, the sacrifices she had made for him. She had been the foundation of his dreams, and now the very thought of her in danger sent him spiraling into a chasm of despair. But then, as he looked at his mother, he remembered the lessons he had learned in the days leading up to this moment. The importance of connection, of prioritizing love over ambition, and the strength found in vulnerability. He took a deep breath, grounding himself. "What do we need to do?" he asked, his voice steadier now. Determination surged through him, fueled by the love he felt for his mother and the realization that he was not alone. Elena was beside him, and so were Mia and Alan, who had followed them into the room, their support palpable. The doctor began to explain the risks and benefits of the surgery, but Diego barely heard the words. Instead, he focused on his mother's hand in his, the warmth of her spirit radiating from the memories they had shared. He knew he had to make a decision, not just for himself, but for his mother, who had spent her life believing in him. "Mom, if you can hear me, I want you to fight. I want you to stay with us," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "We need you. I need you." He glanced at Eleanor, who nodded, her eyes brimming with tears, but filled with resolve. "Mom, you've always been our rock. We can do this together," Elena added, her voice strong despite the fear. The doctor continued to outline the options, but the words blurred together as Diego's mind raced. He could feel the pressure mounting, the weight of expectations both internal and external pushing down on him. He thought of his career, the fame, the music that had once consumed him. But in this moment, none of that mattered. It was his mother's life that hung in the balance. The doctor paused, looking between the siblings, sensing the emotional turmoil. "We need your consent to proceed with the surgery. It's a difficult choice, and I understand the weight of it." Diego felt as if the room had closed in around him. The choice before him wasn't just about the surgery. It was about the life he wanted to lead moving forward. Would he continue to chase a fleeting dream, or would he choose to embrace the love that had always been there? He thought of how he had let ambition overshadow the relationships that mattered most. Now, with everything at stake, he realized what needed to be done. "Yes," he said, his voice firm and clear. "Do the surgery. She needs to fight, and we'll fight with her." Elena's face softened, a mixture of pride and relief washing over her. The doctor nodded, his expression one of encouragement. "Very well. We'll prepare her for surgery right away. You'll be able to wait in the family area until we have an update." As they stepped back to give the medical team room, Diego felt a wave of clarity wash over him. He had faced his fears, made a decisive choice rooted in love, and refused to let uncertainty paralyze him. The path ahead would be difficult, but he felt fortified by the support of his sister and friends. In the waiting room, he turned to Mia and Alan, who had been silent witnesses to his transformation. "Thank you for being here. I know I've been distant, caught up in my own world, but I realize now that I need you all just as much as I need my family." Mia smiled, her eyes shining with understanding. "We're always here, Diego. You don't have to face this alone." Alan nodded, stepping forward. "We'll be by your side no matter what happens. Your dreams can wait. Family comes first." Diego felt a warmth in his chest, a sense of belonging that had eluded him for so long. The emotional impact of the moment enveloped him, a blend of fear, hope, and newfound strength. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he was ready to face them, not just for his mother, but for himself and the relationships he held dear. As the hours stretched on, the waiting room became a sanctuary of solidarity. Stories were shared, laughter punctuated the anxiety, and the bonds between them solidified. Diego realized that this experience had transformed him, reshaping his understanding of success and fulfillment. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the doctor emerged, his expression calm yet serious. "The surgery went well. Your mother is in recovery, and we're optimistic about her prognosis." Relief washed over Diego like a tide, the weight of uncertainty lifting just enough for him to breathe. He looked around at his sister, his friends, and felt a deep gratitude swell within him. This was not just a victory for his mother. It was a victory for their family, for their friendships, and for the love that had brought them all together. In that moment, Diego understood that while life would always present challenges, he had the strength to face them head-on. He had learned that vulnerability was not a weakness, but rather a source of power that could unite people in the face of adversity. As he and Elena leaned into each other, tears of joy mingling with relief, Diego knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter. One where he would prioritize love and family above all else. His dreams would still be there, but now they would be built on a foundation of connection, resilience, and unwavering support. The journey had been hard, but their shared experience had forged an unbreakable bond that would carry them through whatever came next. The hours following the surgery felt like a whirlwind of emotions for Diego, as if the world outside had faded to a blur. The doctor's optimistic words echoed in his mind, yet a subtle tension lingered in the air. As he and Elena settled into the waiting area, surrounded by their friends, the weight of the ordeal began to sink in. The enormity of their decision hung over them, but within that heaviness was a sense of relief that they had chosen to fight. Diego observed the way Elena's fingers tapped nervously against her knee, a habit she had developed during stressful moments. He reached out, placing a reassuring hand over hers. "We did the right thing," he said, not just to comfort her, but to affirm his own conviction. She's going to get through this. The minutes turned into hours, and the waiting room became a tapestry of shared anxieties and small victories. Mia and Alan were there, providing laughter to break the tension, reminding Diego of the vibrant life he had almost neglected in pursuit of fame. Each joke, each heartfelt conversation fortified the bonds between them, weaving a new fabric of friendship that was far more resilient than what had existed before. When the doctor finally reappeared, relief surged through Diego like a wave crashing against the shore. "She's stable and recovering well," he said, a smile breaking through his earlier seriousness. "You can see her soon." As they made their way to her room, Diego felt the emotions he had been holding at bay for hours begin to bubble to the surface. He had faced a pivotal moment, one that had forced him to confront his priorities. The ambition that had once seemed so noble now felt trivial in comparison to the love he shared with his family and friends. Entering the room, Diego was struck by the sight of his mother, her face peaceful despite the machine surrounding her. He pulled a chair close to her bedside, taking her hand gently in his. "I'm here, Mom," he whispered, feeling the warmth of her fingers slowly return to life under his touch. Elena stood beside him, her eyes glistening with tears of relief. "We're all here for you," she added, her voice cracking slightly. The bond between the siblings had grown stronger. Through this ordeal, a shared understanding that transcended words. They had both faced their fears and emerged with a renewed sense of purpose. In the days that followed, Diego found himself embracing a new rhythm in life. He took a leave of absence from his music career, a decision that had once felt unthinkable. But now, with his mother's health improving and the support of those around him, he realized that the world of fame could wait. He dedicated his time to caring for her, helping her through recovery and rediscovering the joy of simple moments. They shared laughter over old family stories and watched the sun set from her hospital window, a reminder of the beauty in life that he had nearly overlooked. Diego reflected on the lessons he had learned through this experience. The importance of prioritizing relationships over ambition weighed heavily on his heart. He had been given a second chance not only to reconnect with his mother, but also to rebuild the friendships that had been strained by his relentless pursuit of success. He found himself more present, more engaged in conversations, and more appreciative of the people around him. Elena blossomed as well, stepping into a role of leadership within their family. She organized meals, coordinated visits, and even encouraged Diego to explore new creative outlets that didn't necessarily involve the spotlight. "We can make music together, just the two of us," she suggested one night, her eyes sparkling with excitement. It was a beautiful idea, one that spoke to the collaborative nature of their relationship, and Diego felt a warmth in his chest at the thought of creating something meaningful with her. Mia and Alan remained by their side, their friendship evolving into a steadfast support system. They visited often, bringing laughter and lightness when the heaviness of the situation threatened to overwhelm. Alan, in particular, had become a confidant for Diego, someone he could open up to about the fears and insecurities that had once driven him to isolate himself. "You've changed, man," Alan said one evening as they shared a quiet moment outside the hospital. "It's like you've finally found what really matters." As Diego looked around at the faces of those who had stood by him, he realized how much he had underestimated the power of connection. The friendships that had once seemed secondary were now a vital part of his life, woven into his identity. He understood that success was not measured solely by accolades or fame, but by the love and support that surrounded him. When his mother was finally discharged from the hospital, Diego stood beside her, holding her hand as they stepped into the sunlight. The warmth on their faces felt like a promise of new beginnings. They were not just stepping back into the world. They were stepping forward together, stronger than before. In the weeks that followed, Diego took time to reflect on his career. He realized that he had been living in a bubble, one that had distanced him from the very people who had always believed in him. With the support of his family and friends, he decided to take a different approach to his music. He began writing songs that told stories of love, connection, and resilience, drawing inspiration from the experience they had shared. Diego also committed to using his platform to raise awareness about the importance of family and mental health, understanding that many people might have faced similar struggles but lacked the support he had found. He began organizing events that brought communities together, emphasizing the importance of solidarity and connection. It was a new direction, one that felt authentic and fulfilling. As Diego stood in front of a small audience one evening, sharing his new songs, he looked out at the faces of those who had come to support him. He felt a rush of gratitude for the journey that had brought him to this moment. The music flowed through him, not as an escape, but as a powerful connection to the people he loved. In that moment of performance, he understood the true meaning of success. It was not about the accolades or the spotlight. It was about the love shared in the room and the bonds forged through adversity. He realized that he was no longer driven solely by ambition, but by a desire to uplift others and celebrate the connections that defined their lives. Diego's journey had transformed him, teaching him the importance of vulnerability, love, and community. As he strummed the final chords of his song, he felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. The road ahead would still be filled with challenges, but he was now equipped with the strength and support of those who mattered most. This was not just a new chapter, it was a whole new book, one where love was the guiding theme and family was the foundation. As Diego continued his journey of transformation, he found solace in the small, everyday moments that had once been overshadowed by ambition. Each day spent with his mother and Elena felt like a precious gift. They would reminisce about family gatherings, share meals, and laugh over old jokes. These interactions deepened their connection, allowing Diego to appreciate the strength of their bond more than ever. Elena, empowered by her newfound sense of purpose, took the lead in organizing family activities. She invited relatives over for dinner, turning their home into a hub of warmth and laughter. Diego watched with pride as she flourished, her confidence shining through as she effortlessly navigated the complexities of family dynamics. It was as if the experience had unlocked a part of her that had always been there, waiting for the right moment to emerge. As he observed the changes within Elena, he couldn't help but reflect on his own growth. The ambition that had once consumed him had transformed into a desire to create something meaningful. Diego began collaborating with local artists, musicians, and writers, mixing their stories and experiences into his songs. Each note carried a piece of his journey, resonating with themes of love, resilience, and the importance of community. The support of his friends, Mia and Alan, remained invaluable during this time. They not only celebrated Diego's new musical direction, but also joined him in his mission to uplift others. Together, they organized community events that combined music, storytelling, and art, creating safe spaces for people to share their experiences. They encouraged vulnerability and connection, showing that the struggles of one could resonate with many. As Diego stood on stage during one of these events, the energy in the room pulsed with warmth and acceptance. He felt a sense of purpose wash over him, a realization that he was exactly where he was meant to be. Sharing his new songs, he saw the faces of those in the audience light up, reflecting their own journeys and struggles back at him. It was a powerful reminder that they were not alone, that they were all part of a greater tapestry of human experience. In the wake of his mother's recovery and his own personal growth, Diego had come to understand the importance of empathy and connection. He was no longer just a musician seeking fame. He was a storyteller, weaving narratives that inspired others to embrace their vulnerabilities and find strength in community. The applause that followed his performances felt different now. It resonated with authenticity and purpose. As summer turned to fall, Diego found himself standing on a stage once again, this time at a local festival. The crowd was larger, and the anticipation in the air was palpable. He took a deep breath, looking out at the sea of faces, and began to share the story of his mother's journey and the lessons he had learned along the way. His words echoed with the struggles and triumphs of those who had faced adversity, emphasizing the importance of love, support, and the courage to redefine what success truly meant. After the performance, people approached him, sharing their own stories of resilience and connection. It was a beautiful exchange, a reminder that his music had the power to touch hearts and ignite conversations. Diego felt a sense of fulfillment that surpassed any accolades he had previously chased. As he walked home that night, the cool breeze brushing against his face, Diego reflected on the profound shift he had undergone. He envisioned a future filled with possibilities, not just in music, but in the connections he would continue to foster within his community. He felt invigorated by the idea of using his platform to advocate for mental health awareness, family bonds, and the importance of friendship in healing. In those quiet moments, he recognized that life was a constant journey of growth. Success, he understood now, was not about how many fans he had or how many records he sold, but rather about the impact he could have on others. Diego was ready to embrace this new chapter with open arms, full of hope and excitement for what lay ahead. The lessons of love, vulnerability, and community were woven into the fabric of his being. He had learned that true strength lay not in isolation, but in the connections forged through shared experiences. As he stepped into the future, Diego carried with him the unwavering belief that together they could uplift one another, creating a world where empathy and kindness reigned supreme. In the end, Diego's journey served as a reminder to all who crossed his path. Life is not merely about the accolades we seek, but the hearts we touch along the way. It is about rediscovering the beauty of connection, the power of stories, and the strength found in vulnerability. As he looked towards the horizon, Diego felt a renewed sense of purpose and the exhilarating possibility of what was yet to come. And so, he continued to share his journey with the world, inviting others to join him in embracing their own stories, knowing that together they could create a symphony of hope and resilience that would resonate for years to come. As he wrapped up his thoughts, he hoped that anyone who heard his story would reflect on their own lives and the connections that mattered most. In a world that often feels fragmented, he wished for everyone to remember that love and support could light the way forward, turning struggles into triumphs. Diego's heart swelled with gratitude for the journey he had taken, and he knew that each step had brought him closer to understanding the true essence of life. This was the beginning of a beautiful new chapter, one where love, connection, and shared stories would continue to shape his path. And so, the stage was set for a future filled with promise, and as Diego looked toward tomorrow, he felt an overwhelming sense of joy, knowing that he was ready to embrace it all. In that moment, he realized that every ending was simply a new beginning, and he was excited to see where this journey would take him next. Diego had found his way home, and it was in the hearts of those he loved. The story would continue, with every note played and every connection made, echoing the timeless truth that together they could create something extraordinary.